Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my tribute to Talking Turkey from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which aired on November 19, 1990 on NBC. This was directed by Jeff Melman and it was written by Cheryl Gard. I know it's been a month since Thanksgiving was over, but since it's still the holiday season, I think it's still the perfect time for me to talk about one of my most favorite episodes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that deals with Thanksgiving. So let's not waste any time and let's get cracking to the moments that I consider to be my absolute favorites and ones that I cherish the most. First, we start off with Jeffrey initially telling a more sanitized version of Thanksgiving to Ashley before Will interrupts the entire scene by doing the Humpty Dumpty dance and even having Jeffrey state that Will is the village idiot who ruined the Thanksgiving prayer. However, the real highlight comes with the arrival of Will's mom, Viola, Aunt Vi Smith, played by the ever wonderful, ever amazing Vernee Watson Johnson, and already her presence is a strong one. She takes no crap from anybody. Yes, she's still unconditionally loving toward her son. She's very charismatic and warm toward Aunt Viv, and she also has her own brand of showing her affection as well as appreciation to Uncle Phil, even when it means cracking jokes about his size at his expense, to which Uncle Phil kind of interprets them as Aunt Vi taking pot shots on him as well as on his weight. And as I stated before, Aunt Vi takes no crap, not even from her own son. So even when Will orders Jeffrey to bring up his mother's luggage, she's not having it and expects Will to take her luggage up to her room like the proper man he should be, which is something I truly enjoy about Aunt Vi. And even Jeffrey finds her compliments about him not looking too bad for his age absolutely charming. My most favorite moment with Aunt Vi has to be when Aunt Viv and Aunt Vi dance to The Temptations, specifically with their song, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. And this is a moment that I thoroughly cherish. First with the two sisters dancing to the song, especially when Aunt Vi corrects Aunt Viv of how to dance it and how to swing her arms before Hillary, Will, Carlton, and Ashley arrive downstairs to greet Aunt Vi with open arms. Even Ashley and Hillary join in the dancing. And here's another funny moment that I thoroughly found myself smiling with glee. It's when Hillary states that Aunt Vi and Aunt Viv are dancing to The Swim, which was popular from the 1940s. However, Aunt Vi takes issue to what Hillary had just stated, saying that it's not from the 1940s, but rather from the 1960s. And this was not The Swim. And she shows all the family members, from her son to Uncle Phil to Aunt Viv to all three Banks children, how she dances to the tune. And wouldn't you know it, everybody manages to stand up on their feet, dance to the music, and this is just such a nice, warm, and really charming family moment between Aunt Vi, Will, and all the Banks family dancing to The Temptations, which I rank as my number one favorite moment from Talking Turkey. But with all that revelry done and Thanksgiving coming in full swing, it's time for Aunt Vi to go into her serious mode and turn the Banks family lifestyle upside down by letting Jesse the gardener take the day off, letting Jeffrey take the day off, and even persuading Aunt Viv to call out all the catering so that everybody can chip in and do the housework. And it's no surprise to see why Aunt Vi wants to perpetuate this whole notion of doing your own work. Consider this. Aunt Vi is a single mom working in the post office. There's an absentee father within the Smith household. The dad is not even there to even support his own family, which we'll even find out in Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse in season 4. And she has to raise Will all by herself, even to the point where she needed to protect him from all of the violence and the pain that was going on in their Philadelphia neighborhood by having him move to Bel-Air so that he can be safe and well. However, Aunt Vi seems to notice that side effect of Will living in Bel-Air, as well as the Banks living a very comfortable lifestyle, it seems to be that in her perception, they seem to be a lot lazier in this Bel-Air environment, which also highlights the social cultural clashes occurring between Aunt Vi, who has been living in the socioeconomically disadvantaged area of Philadelphia, compared to the more socioeconomically advantaged Banks family in Bel-Air, and the values that she instilled Will in terms of being self-sufficient, independent, and hardworking. They are important, but Aunt Vi does take issue to how she and Uncle Phil raise their kids, let alone spoil their kids. For instance, another moment that I found really hilarious was Aunt Viv imitating Hilary's demand from Uncle Phil for more money, specifically $300 in season 1 and $500 in season 3. And it also proved just how much of a wonderfully talented actress, let alone grand thespian, Janet Hubert Whitten was. The way she was able to imitate Karen Parsons as Hilary's cadences when she imitates her voice, let alone mocks her demands for more money from Uncle Phil, was really hilarious. And it also showed me right there that even Aunt Viv is fully aware that she and Uncle Phil do spoil their children. However, with Aunt Viv telling the caterer that they can take the day off and just wishing them good luck for preparing Thanksgiving, it's now up to the Banks children and even Aunt Viv to make sure that dinner is prepared. Even Aunt Viv takes heart to what Aunt Vi had to proclaim to her, let alone criticize her in terms of how she and Uncle Phil have been spoiling Hillary, Carlton, and Ashley. Even as Will tried to charm his way to Aunt Viv, she's not even buying it. Just as how Aunt Vi did not buy Will charming her to making sure that his workload gets lesser and lesser. And this leads Hillary, Will, Carlton, and Ashley to prepare their Thanksgiving dinner, especially considering that Will's and Carlton's teacher, Mr. Fellows, is also the guest of honor for that very evening. And a few words about Mr. Ned Fellows, played by Jonathan Emerson. He was quite an entertaining character. He is hilarious in the sense that, yes, although he is an English teacher specializing in Shakespeare and classic English literature, his approaches do seem quite questionable. I mean, really, making Hamlet to be more of a rap style so that it could be fit toward the new generation of youth, at least back in the 1990s. A little bit cringe if you think about it, but that's also part of his charm as a character. And Jonathan Emerson did an exquisite job in making Ned Fellows a very interesting character in terms of his approaches to how the students would have to approach Shakespearean literature, at least in rap, which he did with a rather questionable technique, but it's the thought that counts, to say the least. But his presence is only complemented by the sheer amazing chaos going on in the kitchen. What with Hillary struggling to get out the puff pastry out of the can, Carlton accidentally bumping Ashley's already prepared cranberry sauce, him struggling to stir the mixture, and even Will reminding Carlton that the only best way to get this stuffing mixture done is to also mix it with Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. And let's also not forget that Hillary forgot to check on the yams, which ended up being burnt to a crisp. Even Thanksgiving dinner turned out to be a disaster, with Mr. Fellows trying out the soiled cranberry sauce, the really burnt yams, and the questionable stuffing mixture. The coup de grace was the frozen turkey, which Will claims that yes, he's been thawing it and thawing it, but it's still frozen. Even Aunt Vi is appalled to see just how poorly the kids have done in making Thanksgiving dinner. And I also have to give credit to Vernee Watson Johnson's reactions to everything that was going on. She truly was an actress in terms of reacting to how people were going to react to that food that they were being served, especially when she puts her hand on her throat to state that, oh goodness, this is not going to end well. And I have to applaud Vernee Watson Johnson for doing such a fine job with reacting to the overall mess occurring in this Thanksgiving dinner. Even Aunt Vi managed to just laugh it all off, knowing that yes, it was going to be a disaster when Hillary, Will, Carlton, and Ashley tried to prepare a Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody just proceeds to laugh it all off. But not all ended up being a disaster, as Mr. Fellows announces to Aunt Vi and all the Banks family that Will managed to do outstandingly in his class, as he received an A. This also makes Aunt Vi really proud of her own son, even with the disaster that was the Thanksgiving dinner. Therefore, Aunt Vi and Aunt Viv join forces to make a last-minute Thanksgiving dinner that's way more appealing to look at, let alone to eat, for everybody. And there's also a nice heart-to-heart between the sisters. Aunt Viv really did take Aunt Vi's criticism to heart, and even Aunt Vi exposits that, yeah, she might have said worse, but at least she was still able to take it like a champ. And the only reason why Aunt Vi trusted Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv to take care of Will is because both Aunt Vi and Aunt Viv knew very well that Will does have a good future ahead of him. And they just want to make sure that Hillary, Will, Carlton, and Ashley have the things that they didn't have, and also make sure that they live their best possible lives. At least despite everything that Aunt Vi proclaimed toward Aunt Viv, at least she knows fully well that Aunt Viv continues to do a good job raising her children as well as raising her son. But she's also got to remind her that they have to do a lot more responsibilities around the house. Even Aunt Vi has a heart-to-heart with Will and commends him for his outstanding work in school, specifically in English. Even as Will tries to help out Aunt Vi in the kitchen, she retorts by stating that that was enough damage that he and his cousins have done in the kitchen, and he's got to learn to cook before he leaves for college. And we also get to understand that the reason why Aunt Viv is such a great cook is because she learned it all from Aunt Vi, thus making us the viewers be reminded that Aunt Vi is just as much of a bedrock to Will's and his cousins' lives as she is to the entire Banks family. And while she is overjoyed to see how well he has done in school, she still misses him so much in their native Philadelphia. And the episode ends with a really touching hug from both mother and son. So yes, this is a very fun and absolutely grand Thanksgiving episode that The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had to offer. I know that some people criticize this episode for Aunt Vi being too harsh toward Will, as well as the entire Banks family, as well as her being kind of hypocritical because she has pretty much sent her own son to live in the more comfortable lifestyle of the Banks family, but she did it out of safety. Just because Will ended up living a more comfortable lifestyle with the Banks family doesn't mean that he's gonna skate away from doing any hard work, let alone just skirting by with his charm. No, he's got to also learn how to do his duty as a member of society and do it well. And he also can't get away with free rides and fancy cars. He, just like the rest of the Banks family, especially Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, have to work very hard to earn it. And sure, viewers can criticize Aunt Vi in terms of her harsh way of bringing more hard work into the Banks family, but it's also a sobering reminder of just how these cultural clashes seem to be that huge, from the socioeconomically disadvantaged life of Aunt Vi, as well as the former life that Will led in their native Philadelphia, to the more comfortable lifestyle that Uncle Phil, Aunt Vi, Hillary, Carlton and Ashley have alongside their butler Jeffrey in the more upscale and more socially prominent area of Bel-Air. At least I, as the viewer, can take comfort that Aunt Vi's intentions were noble in the sense that everybody should chip in, especially during the holidays. And I still managed to enjoy this episode for what it represented. Hard work is not exempt to anybody, no matter how rich or how poor you are. You really have to work hard for your aspirations and also make sure that you stay committed to it, no matter what the season. And I still appreciate Talking Turkey to this very day. And more than anything, Aunt Vi's presence in Talking Turkey, let alone the entirety of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, was thoroughly welcome, and I really love the close family ties, the great familial connection, as well as that overall warmth and love that the Banks family, Will, and Aunt Vi have with each other, especially that dance scene, which still remains top of mind as my most favorite moment of Talking Turkey. Or did this episode not resonate with you? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my tribute to Talking Turkey from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Tune in next time for my look back, let alone tribute, to There's the Rub from Season 6 of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!